Good morning, MCR students. We are working on dividing rational expressions. This gets quite lengthy. That's why I wanted to break this into multiplying rational expressions up. So let's dive right into it. I don't want to waste anybody's time. If I had, it's dividing rational expressions. I know you guys missed my perfect handwriting. If I was doing 3/4 divided by 1/2, if you guys remember, some of you were taught something, a mnemonic device, KFC, keep, flip, change. Keep the first one, flip the second one, change it from division to multiplication. 3 times 2 is 6, 4 times 1 is 4. So we end up with 6/4, divide the top and bottom by 2, and we end up with 3/2. We're going to use the same technique here as far as multiplying by the reciprocal. So let's get into an example of 8m squared over 3m squared minus 12 divided by 40 over 2 minus m. Well, first of all, you guys know I don't like that, so I'm just going to rewrite that as negative m plus 2. So, to handle this first example, I'm going to rewrite that first term. I'm going to go ahead and pull a 3 out of that bottom term. Go ahead and factor a 3 out, and we're going to multiply by the reciprocal. So when we multiply these together, remember we kind of keep them in a state of multiplication so that we can factor everything out that we can. So the first thing I'd factor out of this one is just going to be a negative 1. So I want that to be nice and clean. This is our key right here. We need to factor this one. What two numbers multiply together to give us negative 4 but add up to 0? Well, that should be positive 2 and negative 2. So I've got m plus 2 times m minus 2, and it's still times 40. So when I'm looking at this, I can definitely cross these two out. So that leaves me with 8m squared times negative 1 just makes it negative. And I've got 3 times m minus 2 times 40. But I can break 40 down into two factors that'll help us out. 8 times 5. And that will cross out the 8's. So that leaves me with m squared at the top, and it's still negative, the whole thing is. So then I just distribute the 5 times the 3, and I get 15 times m minus 2. So I end up with negative m squared over 15 times m minus 2. All right. So if you thought that was tough, wait till you see the next example. I know you're going to love this one. Lots of factoring trinomials. You know what? I'm going to flip the page. So let's take care of 18y squared plus 9y minus 2 over 24y squared minus 10y plus 1 divided by 3y squared plus 17y plus 10 over 8y squared plus 18y minus 5. A lot going on here. There's a lot of factoring that we're going to have to do to be successful at answering this question. So let's go ahead and factor this top and this bottom. So to factor this, since we have the coefficient in that first term, what I've taught you guys to do is multiply this times this. So 18 times negative 2 is negative 36. So we ask ourselves, what two numbers multiply together to give us negative 36 that will add up to 9? And when we look at that, it's going to be a positive 12 and a negative 3. One of them has to be positive, one has to be negative, and the bigger one has to be positive. So we rewrite the first term, rewrite the last term, and break 9y down into positive 12y minus 3y. And then we're going to end up factoring by grouping. So let's look at the bottom one. 24 times 1 is just 24. What two numbers multiply together to give us positive 24 that add up to negative 10? Rewrite the first term, rewrite the last term. Negative 6 times negative 4 will give us positive 24 and will add up to negative 10. So we've got to flip these over. So this 8y squared is going to be on the top. I better just write it down. Over 3y squared plus 17y plus 10. Okay, so we had to flip this. We're multiplying by the reciprocal, and we'll have to factor those two also. So let's continue factoring these, and then we'll get into this stage. I'm factoring by grouping now, and it looks like I can pull a 6y out of this first binomial, and that leaves me with 3y plus 2. And since this first term is negative, I'll pull a negative 1 out, and that leaves me with 3y plus 2. These two are the same, so I know I'm good to go. This binomial, I can pull a 6y out, and I end up with 4y plus 1. Same thing here, I need to pull a negative 1 out. I end up with 4y. Oh, this is supposed to be negative here. I was looking for my mistake, but there wasn't one. Because this is negative, I pulled the 6 out, and I shouldn't have put positive. So I pull a negative 1 out of this one, and I end up with 4y minus 1. So we're good to go because we have the same exact binomials there. Now we've got to factor this. 8 times negative 5, I get negative 40. What two numbers multiply together to give you negative 40 that add up to 18? So I rewrite the first one, and I'm thinking 20 times 2, so positive 20y minus 2y, and we rewrite that last term. And 3 times 10, we get 30. This one should be the easiest one. What two numbers multiply together to give you 30 that add up to 17? Well, that should be 15y and 2y. And we rewrite that last term. So we'll factor these by grouping. And we're in a different stage on this one. I can rewrite it now. 6y minus 1 times 3y plus 2. And this is 6y minus 1 times 4y minus 1. So let's finish these up and see what we've got. I can pull a 4y out. And not, whoops, y. So I've got 2y plus 5. I've got a negative term in the front, so I'll pull a negative 1 out, and I've got 2y plus 5. Pull a 3y out of this first term, and I get y plus 5. And I can pull a 2 out of that second term, and I get y plus 5. So I'm just going to rewrite this top one. I have it all in one line. So it's 4y minus 1 times 2y plus 5. And then on the bottom, in our denominator, I've got, this should be a y, 3y plus 2 times y plus 5. So now we're just going to look at everything that we're able to cancel out. Well, these 6y's cancel out. Is there a 3y plus 2? Yes, there is. 4y minus 1 cancels out. So that just leaves us with this. So our answer is 2y plus 5 over y plus 5. It's quite a bit, I know, but these are the types of problems that we're looking at this go-round. So let's look at a couple more examples, and then I'll be able to post your work and give you guys a chance to to handle these monsters on your own. This will be an opportunity for you to pause the video to try this skill on your own. Let's try a third example. We've got 6y cubed over 3y squared minus 27 divided by 42 over 3 minus y. And you know I'm going to cross that out and just write it as negative y plus 3. So let's multiply by the reciprocal. I can go ahead and pull a 3 out of this. I've got y squared minus 9 times negative y plus 3 over 42. Well, I can factor this a little bit more, and I'm going to pull a negative out of this top one. So I get 6y cubed times negative 1 times y minus 3 over 3 times y plus 3 times y minus 3 times 42. And this is similar to that first example that we did. I'm able to cross this out. 42 can break down into 6 times 7, so the 6's cross out. That negative 1's still there, so I've got negative. The only thing up top is y cubed over 3 times y plus 3. Now I've also got the 7 that I didn't multiply, so I need to distribute that, and I end up with y cubed over 21 times y plus 3. Alright, so let's look at a final example here. And this one's another monster like that second example. But if you would like to pause the video and give yourself a chance to try this, be patient, stay focused, stay organized, and you've got a chance of beating this. Alright, so let's write the second part of this problem. 2x squared plus 9x plus 10, 2x squared plus 9x plus 10 over 7x squared minus 68x minus 20. Alright, so we've got to multiply by the reciprocal. So I'm just going to rewrite this 7x squared minus 68x minus 20 over 2x squared plus 9x plus 10. And we're going to be multiplying. Now we're going to factor all 4 of these trinomials individually, and then we'll see what we can factor out, what we can cross out. So 10 times negative 5 is negative 50. So what two numbers multiply together to give us negative 50 but add up to 23? Well, 25 times 2 is 50, and 25 minus 2 is 23. So I'll rewrite that first term, break the 23x into 25x and negative 2x, and rewrite that last term. Same thing here almost. 5 times 10 is 50, but I get a negative in the middle. Well, that means I'm going to have negative 50x minus x plus 10. And let's break down these other two. 7 times negative 20 is negative 140. But I get negative 68. So while this sounds hard, 70 times 2 is 140, and 70 minus 2 is negative 68. So rewrite that first term, negative 70x plus 2x minus 20. And 2 times 10 is 20. And what two numbers multiply together to give you 20 to add up to 9? That one's the easiest one. 2x squared plus 4x plus 5x plus 10. Now we're going to factor everything by grouping. So I can pull a 5x out of this top term, and I get 2x plus 5. Pull a negative 1 out of this term, and I get 2x plus 5. I can pull a 5x out of this one, and I end up with x minus 10. And I pull a negative 1 out, and I end up with x minus 10. Alright, so this first one I can pull a 7x out, and I get x minus 10. And I pull a 2 out of this one, and once again I get x minus 10. We can pull a 2x out of here, and I end up with x plus 2. And we can pull a 5 out of here, and once again I get x plus 2. So let's combine everything down. We've got 5x minus 1 and 2x plus 5 for our first factors. We'll just do the top line first. And I've got 7x plus 2 times x minus 10 for the second set. In my bottom, I've got 5x minus 1 times x minus 10. And then I've got 2x plus 5 times x plus 2. If you've made it this far, then you're doing great, because this is just a matter of matching. Alright, so I end up with 7x plus 2 over x plus 2. Now I know those are monster problems. I want everybody to give them a shot, see how you do at them. It might take a little bit more practice. And like I said, if you're having some serious issues and need some help, send me a message on Schoology. I'll set up a Zoom call and I can go over any questions that you have at that time. Hope you all have a great weekend, and we'll see you next week.